look.
Hello and welcome to the Seahawkers podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Schultz, and tonight I am joined by a couple of my good buddies. We've got Clinton Bonner, we've got Adam Emmert, and we are going to be talking 2025 quarterbacks, Adam.
Yes, we are. So each and every year for the past, I don't know how long, we've done, at least in the flagship show, not just a separate show like we're doing now, but I've kind of gone through, ranked out some of the quarterbacks that are coming into the NFL this year, kind of my thoughts on them. And it's been a fun exercise, and I'm looking forward to doing it with you guys today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Clinton, I know you're looking forward to it too, buddy.
I am, man. I am. Thanks, Brandon. A ton. And, I've enjoyed the years now of watching you guys debate who are the top quarterbacks. And I want the audience to realize that these mountain men and Adam, he's been on a bit of a heater. We're going to talk about that too. And what I'm most interested in is we're going to do the countdown of the 10 like we have on screen for y'all, but I'm also really interested in understanding which ones do you guys think are kind of right for the Seahawks? Where should we take them potentially, and why those dudes over some other guys? So we got a pretty packed show, boys. I'm very excited about it, Brandon.
Yes, we got a packed show. We've got an executive producer who has come into the chat. It is Ryan911, our live executive producer with the $9.99 super chat. I know we've also got quite a few folks joining us live as well. So as you come on in, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new here. And, we've got lots of stuff to talk about, Clinton, but I think you also want to, we like to shout out our executive producer. Mm-hmm. We also like to shout out our sponsors who are helping to support the show as well.
Yeah, we are very, very excited. We are going to get the top 10. By the way, it says top 12, but it's actually a top 10 of Adams. But we have
we'll add in two more. It'll be fun.
Why not? We do have a brand new sponsor we want to shout out. That's Body Spec. So let's do there and give them their proper. So if you're ready to kickstart your fitness journey, whether you're an athlete, a fitness enthusiast, or just getting back in shape, Body Spec has you covered. For less than the price of a haircut, which is pretty okay. You could access DEXA scans, the world's most accurate body composition. As you can see on screen here, you get the numbers that actually matter to you, your body composition, bone density, and overall health metrics. It's a powerful way to take charge of your well-being, and you could do it without the need for insurance or any complicated procedures. You want to truly understand what's going on with your body of yours? Well, right now, we're offering an exclusive $10 discount on single scans. You see it on screen. Just use the code SHP at checkout. Hit that QR code. DEXA scans are really something else. And they came to us because we had a big audience, of course, out in Seattle, and they got offices out there, and they got the ability to bring mobile vans out to you as well. So if you can't make it to one of their locations, they will come to you. So that is our sponsor, Body Spec, and we are very fired up to have them. And I think one more for there. Yeah, one last one there, bodyspec.com/C-Hawkers. Hit that QR code SHP. And boys, that means we are heading on to the top 10. But Adam and Brandon, I think what's really cool sometimes about, we're going to look at this top 10. We're going to discuss which ones are great for our Seahawks, maybe why. But I think sometimes it's nice to do a little bit of looking back at history and say, how did we do last year? Adam, specifically, how did you do? And also reminding the audience, how the heck do you do this in general? How do you come up with, you're not just throwing darts here. No pun intended. How do you look at these QBs, and maybe how is that a bit different than how others do it out there?
Heck yeah. So I think one thing that's apparent is the only thing that is more accurate than Body Spec when it comes to anything is me and my QB predictions. Look at this. This actually worked out pretty good last year. And, we go back over the years, and the hit rate has been pretty good overall. So why would you listen to some hermit in a plywood box in the woods? Well, it's worked out pretty well. So, and the reason it's worked out well is because I think I kind of come at it from a different angle than most people do. And I think it's with the most fresh set of eyes with the least amount of bias possible. And so basically, these are a few things that I'm looking for when I'm going through and looking at stuff in my process. I don't check out other people's lists. I try to tune out as much information as possible about what anybody else is saying about any of these guys. I don't watch regular season college football in season. I'm not a fan in any way, so I'm not biased to which teams and which players and their stories and the narratives and all of that stuff and who's in the running for Heisman's and all that stuff. I just don't care, and I think that actually helps when I look at this. It's a little more neutral. I don't give a crap about the combine or pro days. I don't care about stats. All I do is I go and I find the U tape. So basically YouTube cut-ups of every throw from a bunch of different games and just watch throw after throw after throw, snap after snap, and just watch them play quarterback. That's all I care about. And I'm looking for quarterbacks. I'm not looking for athletes that are trying to play quarterback. That's another big part of it. I value accuracy far more than I value arm strength, but you have to have enough arm strength. You have to have the requisite NFL arm strength to play in the league. I'm looking to see if guys are running just to run or if they're running to throw, keeping their eyes up, trying to get the ball down the field. I value higher floors more than I value high ceilings. So it's more like 60% high floors to high ceilings, because the idea being these guys have to hit in the first 2 or 3 years while they're in your organization, or your coach is gone and the GM is gone. So you're looking for guys that can come in right away. And my predictions here aren't 10-year success predictions or anything like that. It's just what's going to happen in that first 2 to 3 years. I'm kind of looking for guys that seem to be scheme specific. Are they in a place where, well, it only works there because of just the one way that they do things? That's something that I, kind of tips some red flags for me. I want to see guys that can get through multiple reads and can sit in the pocket and have good pocket presence. I'm looking for at least some functional mobility. Like, you can't be a statue anymore in the NFL. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Joe Flacco, those guys, those days are dead. You can't have a guy that plays that way and survive week in, week out. I don't give a crap about players' ages. Like, if you tell me, well, he's going to be a 24-year-old rookie, I don't care. If you draft him, he's good. He's going to play 10 years till he's 34. That's all you're hoping for. I don't care if they're 20, 25, doesn't matter to me. Another huge thing is I'm looking to see, are they constantly putting the ball in harm's way for like no reason? That's something that really frustrates me. And it's, I think, one of the biggest things when it comes to playing quarterback. If you're putting the ball in harm's way a lot for literally no reason, you're going to hurt your team. And especially in the league when the guys are so good, and they'll take advantage of that. And like I said, I'm just looking to see if they can succeed early. So that's kind of my criteria. That's what I'm looking for. There's more to it. It's a lot more old school. It's a lot more eyeball tests, but the proof's in the pudding. It's worked out.
It has worked out well, and you can see up on screen kind of how it was ranked out. I'm curious, though, Adam, based on your 2024 rankings, this was, before the season even started, this was us going into the draft. Yes. How, after a year, would you make any tweaks based on maybe some things that you've seen, or do you feel like you nailed it?
I think the only thing that I am wondering about is just because we didn't get to see JJ last year. Yeah. But the big thing in this list was having Caleb Williams fairly low. I kind of chickened out on putting JJ above Caleb. And I guess that worked out in terms of the injury. But a lot of what happened with Caleb through the season is exactly what you saw on tape. And I don't care if you went back to the previous year or his senior year, had a hard time playing in structure, couldn't play on time. And a lot of the hero ball outside of the pocket, like, it was going to happen sometimes, but it wasn't going to translate on the regular as it did in college. And you saw a lot of that in his first year with the Bears. Now he gets a great fit with Ben Johnson, and we'll see if he can flip that narrative completely on its head. That's what he needed coming in. I said when he was coming into the draft, he needed an Andy Reid type, and man, he may have just found it. So that may flip this thing totally on its head. But to this point, I really like what's happened here. Bo Nix, thank you for validating me putting you at number 2. That helped out a lot.
I'm just happy that you and I both had 1 and 2, Daniels and Nix.
Yeah.
Because and then it got a little bit different after that. But I was happy that we were the same there. And I'm curious if you and I will be the same when it comes to our top 2, at least this year.
I know that there's going to be at least one that I don't know exactly if the ranking is going to be the same, but I think our feelings are going to be the same because you got to him a little quicker than I did. I didn't start watching his stuff until after you had. And what you had said in your text messages, it played out on tape when you saw it, which was fun.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think for me too on this particular list, I remember watching the combines and watching Bo Nix throw in underwear essentially, and being like, "Oh, he can't do anything. He's not. He was just missing people left and right in at the in Indianapolis." And I watched a little bit of Oregon, so I kind of did the opposite of what you were saying there, Adam. And that didn't work out well for me, by the way. So I was like, "Oh, he can't even hit these dudes in stride with no pressure. Like, how could he possibly do it?" So I was misguided, but great job here. And then also what we did, guys, we went out to YouTube. We like to use the YouTube platform for polling. It's really cool tool, and it's a nice way to stay connected. So if you are subscribed, you'll get that in the channel, and the votes we're getting more and more votes on the stuff. So people are digging it. So we just asked kind of let's call it a weighted question, saying if you could take any of these quarterbacks, and they can only list 4. So we did. You could take any of these quarterbacks, but regardless of kind of draft position, who would you want? So on screen is Dillon Gabriel, Jaxson Dart, Jalen Milroe, and Will Howard from Ohio State. And, not unsurprisingly, guys, Jaxson Dart runs away with it with the majority, 52%. And with that, Will Howard kind of gets maybe a sneaky second place, and then the other two are kind of tied behind them. So it's going to be interesting to also juxtapose how the flock was voting versus how you and Brandon and Adam are thinking about these quarterbacks as we head into the top 10 of this year. But any surprises there for you, Brandon?
Yeah, the interesting part of the survey for me is that Will Howard was number 2 over a guy like Milroe, who I think people have seen that he has a little bit more athleticism. And Howard's, I don't think he's getting talked about as much. I think, if you would have put Kyle McCord up on this list, I think just based on PR, he might have been higher than some of these other players too. But yeah, one of my favorite guys got the least amount of votes.
Yeah, that's interesting. No, it's interesting to see how this pulls out, and I think it definitely shows the power of media in kind of creating the draft narratives, and whether or not, and we'll get into my thoughts on these guys, but you see every year guys come in and they're risers after they're done playing football, or they fall after they're done playing football, and I can't wrap my head around that, because all we should be judging these guys on is how they play football. Like, that's the entire point of drafting guys, is for them to come in and play football, not how they interview, not what the combine numbers look like, not that one throw on Zach Wilson's pro day that suckered me and got me wrong on Zach Wilson. None of that crap. So interesting.
I will say, though, some of the rising and falling narrative does happen because some of the guys who are scouts who maybe weren't in on a guy who was at a smaller school and hadn't been, after the season's over, then people are starting to do their YouTube tape reviews. And yeah, they might come across a guy that, I wasn't even thinking about him being this high, but now that I've gone back and I've watched his college tape, now he's up here rather than where I saw initially. So I think some of that movement is due to just people catching up to, their scouting positions.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep. Could be. All right. So I think it's about a high time we get to it, gentlemen. So we got this cool Family Feud style board here. We're going to count down from 10 to 1. It's going to be Adam giving his selections, explanations of why that pick. We got some beautiful graphics queued up. Brandon, you and I are here to react. And of course, we got the flock hanging with us. So please drop your live comments. Tell us what if you want to throw some tomatoes at Adam about his positioning, do so. Feel free. If you want to weigh in on them, you like them, you don't, or who might you have there? If you see some surprises, definitely comment right along, and we'll play. We'll get your comments on screen live as we do this. So, Adam, it is yours, my man. Who is in the 10 spot this year? Where are you going?
All right. So when we're kind of looking at this, I wanted to kind of preface it with everything. Everything kind of falls into 3 tiers for me. Can he play? Can he might play? And can he not play? And that's basically where it's at. And this first group of guys, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to look at them and go, you know what? I just don't see an NFL quarterback. But when I say that, I want to give these guys their props straight out of the gate. You know how hard it is to become a starting college quarterback, especially D1 or even, D2, whatever. That's so hard. And it's such an accomplishment to be that level of an athlete. So as we talk about these kids, like these very young men coming out, let's not take away from their accomplishments. So anything that I say, especially about the first tier guys, I don't want that to come across as just, throwing eggs at these guys. They worked hard to get where they are. They were good enough to be, good solid college quarterbacks, enough to where they're being discussed about for the draft. And so that leads me to number 10. We're starting out with Riley Leonard from Notre Dame. And there's a lot of guys on the list, obviously 10. And so we're going to spend very little time, especially here at the bottom. I don't know their heights and weights when I'm watching the thing. I don't know where they came from. Apparently he's been around, was maybe at Duke or something like that. All the things. But when you turn it on and you watch it, this is the epitome of a college quarterback. I mean, it was all QB draws and checkdowns and bubbles. And, just from that, there was just no NFL throws on tape. And it was really unimpressive that way as a thrower. Congratulations to him I feel a lot about him like I did Sam Hartman last year coming out. Like, that's cool, man. You were the starting quarterback at Notre Dame. That's impressive, but it ain't going to translate to the league. And so just not a lot of time on here. Projected round 4. I don't even know if this guy's draftable.
I like how you gave that whole preface of guys, of kids and recognizing their accomplishments. When even if a guy isn't a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, we say he sucks. So, I mean, imagine being the 11th best person at something in the world, and then people think that you suck because you're not top 10.
Yeah, well, they're paid professionals and grown-ass men. So they should be able to take it when somebody says that they suck.
That's probably true.
With Riley, for sure. I think, comparing him to Sam Hartman on the handsome scale. No, that's Sam and Angry Duck.
That's a scale that's only achievable by.
That's Doug Baldwin and Sam. Yeah, Doug Baldwin and Sam Hartman, and then stop the presses. That's it in terms of footballers. I don't know. I watched this guy enough. I think he's okay, man. I think he can move the ball. I agree. It's a lot of running the football. It's a lot of draws. It's some good leadership stuff, but I'm also with you, Adam. I don't think there's a pro arm sitting in here that can make all those throws consistently. Maybe he'll surprise to the upside. And by the way, if you're looking at projected rounds towards the top of the slides, those are coming from, just a couple of different sources and looking at where people think it might go. Remember that QBs do tend to get pushed up until they don't, right? We saw Joe Milton get traded today for very, very little. Milton and a 7th for a 5th round pick to the Cowboys, which was kind of shocking, to be honest. But last year, obviously, so much got jammed in the first round, and then there was just a big abyss until you got to like Spencer Rattler and Joe Milton later. So it'll be very interesting to see if this guy actually does go 4th round, Riley Leonard. All right. So Adam, anything else on Leonard before we get to number 9?
I just wanted to recognize Barry White, one of our YouTube members, who says, I hope we can include an RHS rating today, relative Howl score. How does each prospect compare to our 2024 round 3 through round 5 QB pick? And so I wanted to start with Riley Leonard, in that I would view him as below the relative Howl score.
Agreed. He would be minus in the Howl score. And really what it boils down to is he relies on his legs a ton, or at least that's the way the offense was structured. And it's not special. Like, his running ability isn't something that jumps off the tape. Like when you watch Jaden Daniels last year and we're just like, oh my God, like that'll translate. That's not going to translate for him.
I would put him on par with, for me already, with the Sam Howell scale. Wow. But I feel
Howell's a better thrower.
Well, that's fine. And I think Leonard might be a better quarterback. With all that, this is also your list, not my list. I'm just giving you my determination on the Howell relative scale, which is hilarious. All right. So on to number 9. Then how about that, Adam? Ready?
All right. Number 9. So hopefully John Schneider is listening, because I've heard this name linked to the Seahawks a few times, and a lot of people talking about it. Quinn Ewers from Texas. And well, we can start with some of the good with Quinn. He gets it out fast. I mean, he really does operate in the quick game well. He sees it better when he's out running around and on the move than he does from in the pocket. He can layer throws with some pace in that sort of thing. deadly and intermediate, according to one of the other scouts. Definitely do not see that. This is a guy that I had actually watched a little bit of his stuff last year, and people talking about him. He's a name, and just going, what is here? Like, I don't understand. And then my number one takeaway after watching a lot of his Texas games from this year was, how in the world does Arch Manning not beat this guy out? There's just a lot that really bothers me. As far as his mobility, I don't think that it's plus mobility. I don't even think it's average mobility. He can get out and he can move around a little bit, but it's not going to translate to the league and be a difference-making kind of asset for him. And under pressure was one of the things that really bothered me the most about Quinn Ewers and on his tape. Just a lot of backpedaling and just chucking it up, and then a little bit of pressure, and there's a guy coming open for you, waits a half a beat, stands in tall, delivers the football. You got a 15-yard gain, but instead, just quick to check it down and kind of a check down Charlie. He misses a lot of his hots too when he is blitzed, like just kind of gets frazzled. He turns down the intermediate to deep stuff all the time. Like, it'll be there, turn it down, check it down short. And there was just no tight window throws at all on the tape. If it was wide open and he could see it and then throw it, then it was there. But the arm strength is just not there. It's just not NFL level. The accuracy isn't NFL level. And this guy seems like a third string type of quarterback to me. And, he might get drafted late, and that'd be cool. You could say he made the league and all that, but he just falls into the can't play category for me.
I have a hard time with some of these guys too, who have first round talent wide receivers to throw to, because I know a lot of guys over the years, especially at quarterback, that they have an elite, like top tier guy to throw to. And he had Matthew Golden. But I mean, you look back at some of those other, like I'm thinking of Johnny Manziel, right? Throwing to Mike for the Bucks, Mike Evans. Yeah. And it's like, he makes Johnny Manziel look so much better than he actually was. And then it played out in the league that way.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about a quarterback a little bit later on that I think benefited from some of that as well. And yeah, Quinn Ewers, I mean, he playing on Texas. I mean, that's a bunch of talented guys. So, and I like that tight end from Texas, Clinton. I know you're tight end focused, but he made a lot of nice catches.
Well, they had talent all around him, which is part of the point that Brandon's making too, right? So you got Golden, who's projected to go first round. Potentially, a lot of people are clamoring for him at 18. We're going to do a draft crush episode pretty soon, where we'll show you some of the people that if we don't go wide receiver first round, then I hope to God we don't, that there's some really good options in the second and third round. But they had Blue at running back, who's quite good. He's probably going to get drafted. They got Gunnar Helm, who's going to be 4th through 6th tight end off the board, who's really solid, and Golden, who's a first round talent. And they got dudes like Kelvin Banks to protect him, right? Who's going to probably go in the first round also. I mean, like you said, this is Texas. I'm again back to the Howell relative scale. I think Sam Howell's better than Ewers actually. So that's I would jockey Leonard with Ewers, but that's again just my take. I'm just not that impressed. It's sometimes you watch a college guy and maybe it's the stripes on the ball. I know that sounds stupid and weird, but the ball comes out kind of funny, or just it's not. I don't know. It just doesn't have like when Penix threw the ball. You're like, oh my God, that guy's got an NFL. Yeah, that guy's got an NFL arm. I don't care what kind of ball he's throwing. It's zipping, and I just don't see that here. So I think maybe a backup. People love him. People follow him. That's cool, but that stops also, I think, at the NFL level, because then you're with the elite of the elite.
The elite of the elite. And yeah, I think he's below the Howell line. Yes.
Yeah. All right.
I actually, of the guys, I think it sounds like I'm the highest on yours, which is gross because he's a Texas guy. But I do notice some people in the chat too, recognizing that he did play through injury during his 2024 season. He had an oblique injury. And so that could have hampered his arm strength a little bit this past season.
Sure.
I still think that I would probably put him about even at the Howell scale for me. But again, it's not. I don't expect him to be a starter necessarily. I think he has a little bit of potential upside. It's the reading defenses part that I think worries me the most. That I think limits him primarily as a backup.
Yeah, the processing is on the lower end of the scale. At least Howell can move and has enough arm talent. As far as him being injured this last year, again, I watched some of his 23 stuff as well, and just the arm strength just isn't there. It's just not there. He doesn't have it.
Yeah. All right. So I think that's enough on Quinn. And hopefully, when we're sitting out there at the Clearwater Casino on day 2, we're not sitting there crying in our beers that we select this guy, because there's other guys that are not there yet that maybe is a better target for Seattle. So Adam, where are you taking us with your number 8 on your big board?
All right, for a guy that we saw live and in person at the Shrine Bowl, Brandon. This is somebody that we both observed up close, and this is Syracuse's Kyle McCord. We're gonna have him at number 8. Kind of starting with some of the good stuff. Like, we watched him walking around the sidelines and everything. Has the size, he looks the part. Kind of even has that QB swagger. Definitely, he kind of oozes QB, just kind of hanging out with him. He's got an NFL worthy arm. I mean, he can sling it. He really can. And then you kind of start watching everything from his tape, and this dude's a chucker's chucker. Like, he is him, and there's one other guy that's on the list that's a chucker as well, but just a little more accurate. When I say a chucker, that's different than a gunslinger. Gunslingers, they're wild. They take chances. That's for sure. But there's so much upside that comes with it that it's like, all right, I can live with a couple of them. Kyle McCord, man, this is a guy that when he can get through progressions, but if he gets to whoever it is that he's deciding to throw to, it's like, okay, 1 to 2, yep, open, yep, okay. And then it's kind of a low looping arm motion, and then throws it. It's always so late. But you can see he's staring at it, and he's recognized it, and that's where he wants to go. But the processing's super slow. And then one of the things that, comes along with chuckers with nice arm strength is they think arm strength cures everything. It doesn't matter the window. I'm throwing it in there. And that's Kyle McCord, man. Like, he does not give a crap. He'll just chuck it in there and call it good. And that's the end of the day for him. And then what really hurts him is he's pretty close to a statue. He doesn't move around well. And with that arm, he has a hard time throwing with touch. And the accuracy super spotty. It's just tough, man. It's tough tape to watch. He had 5 interception game against Pitt. A couple of those weren't his fault either. So, take that with a grain of salt. But it kind of did showcase exactly what Kyle McCord's play up to this point has been all about. And he falls into the can't play category, or at least like a lower end backup to a third stringer.
Yeah, he was one of the guys who I think this, just us going to the Shrine Bowl and having that experience of seeing what how people reacted, and because that was kind of the joke between the two of us while we were at Shrine Bowl, is that, the Kyle McCord stock is way up. And I think a part of that is when you get around and you put a guy like Kyle McCord around other quarterbacks who are at the Shrine Bowl, he looks the most quarterbacky in terms of his size, in terms of his arm strength, and people go, oh, maybe we should look at Kyle McCord. And so enough people start saying that, and then all of a sudden, McCord's stock's up, and it's relative to the guys who are actually there that he was throwing against on the field. And that was a guy like Cam Miller, who we also saw there. It was Brady Cook, who we saw at Shrine too, Brosmer. And so, yeah, according to some of those guys, he was probably the most, he looked the most like an NFL quarterback.
He did. And one of the things that was interesting is not having watched his U-tape before we went to the Shrine Bowl, watching him work on drills in the end zone and stuff, and trying to get him to throw with a little more touch and a little bit more arc. I mean, the coaches were always doing that. He was coming up to him after almost every rep. Get it up, quit trying to rope it in there, and wasn't sinking it. And I mean, it showed up throughout his entire college tape for sure. I don't know, Clinton, if this is a guy that popped off the screen to you a little differently, or if that kind of tracks.
I like him more than you guys do, and I think he would probably be in my top 6, and maybe a little higher. I think when I watched him, and I watched a couple of Syracuse games throughout the year, because again I'm in Connecticut, so it's fairly local, and so he was a bigger deal on the East Coast, I think, as well. So you start to hear about him earlier, and I like him for a few reasons. I remember watching a couple of his games and thinking. I was like, oh, I think he's like a Chad Pennington plus, which is to say that could be a very successful NFL quarterback, because Chad Pennington, for those that are old enough to remember, was a very good Jets quarterback who did not have a great arm, but he was really accurate, very cerebral. He was kind of like an Alex Smith, but maybe even a little bit better. And I thought I saw that kind of potential with McCord, and I like that. He transfers, he gets to Syracuse, and he kind of lifted a program that had not been good in a long time. And they played markedly better. And then they have a wide receiver named Pena who goes out and has a good year. He might get drafted. And they got Gadsden's son. I think it's Orande Gadsden. And he's their tight end, and he had a really good season too. So he definitely lifted the boats in Syracuse. So for me, I'm higher than you guys are on him. I guess we'll just see how it plays out. I would not, to me, if he's like a 5th rounder, Seattle takes a flyer on, I'm fine with McCord let him go battle with Sam Howell. I put him above the Sam Howell line.
That's a gigantic no thanks. When you're talking about Pennington compared to McCord, when you talk about accuracy and processing, you compare those two players, I would put them on opposite sides of the spectrum.
And
Okay.
Carly Perkins in chat asking when he's projected. I'd say around 5th round for a McCord. But yeah, I would put him below Howell as well because of that movement, because of, I think he gets credit for some of the pocket slide ability I see on the scouting here too, but I see him falling back more than I do stepping up, I feel like.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think time will tell what Kyle, he'll get a shot with somebody, right? So one of the 32 teams will draft him and bring him in and see how he does. But there we go. Marlon called me out. It was funny. We did some grading shows with Mr. Phil the last couple of these last weeks on offense and defense. And I claimed that I was a harsh grader, and I got to me. and Phil and Adam jumped right on that, and they were like, "No, you are not you," because I tend to be a bit of a Pollyanna and definitely an over hyper for sure. But I like McCord. Of the dudes shown so far, he's my favorite.
East Coast bias,
for sure.
What I hear.
Always and forever.
All right. Well, I mean, you're talking about overhyping and stuff like that, and that can definitely bring us to the next one, because every year there's that quarterback that pops up in the draft where I sit to myself and I think, after watching him again, and every year I go back to this player 4, 5, 6 times and watch a number of games and a ton of snaps, and like, what am I missing? And this year's crazy pills player for me is easily Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders at number 7. I can't understand for the life of me how he's being talked about as anything above a day 3 pick. I just
like, other than who his dad is.
See, and I do think that's unfair to him a little bit. Well, it's all because it's just his dad. And it's like, okay, I'm sure that has some effect on things, but he's had to work he got to Jackson State and elevated that program and put them on the map, and then got to Colorado and took them, and elevated that program a little bit. But it's one of these things where you turn on the tape and it's just, are we watching different guys? It doesn't make sense to me at all. And we can start a little bit with the good. He's pretty good at rolling to his left and finding guys. He's super tough. I mean, he takes shots and gets back up. No doubt about that. Had to kind of overcome, all the hype of having to live up to his dad's shadow and all that stuff too. So that's hard to do. He's also the hardest evaluation to me by far out of this, because number one, we all saw what it meant to Geno Smith to have the type of protection that he had last year and how that made it hard on him. holy smokes. I mean, that offensive line for the Buffaloes was god awful. It was so bad. And we also saw what happens when you have a terrible offensive coordinator. God, poor Shedeur Sanders. He was having to survive Pat Shurmur as his offensive coordinator there in Colorado. And I don't know if you guys remember Pat Shurmur's time in the league with the Giants and the Broncos, and he'd been a few other places, but he always keeps getting gigs and people seem to think he's good. Everything is empty. Everything is 15 yards or further down the field. And it just did him no favors. He had a terrible offensive line in front of him, and the receivers are running almost all goes, or like there's a number of plays where the slot receiver is running a route down the seam where it's like a 4-move route. Like it's like not just a stutter go, it's like a stutter slant, whip, then go, like stuff like it take 25 minutes to develop downfield. And that made it really tough on Shedeur because on top of all of the problems, he doesn't even have close to an NFL arm. Like it's really below average. And a lot of that comes from, he throws the ball really over the top. He comes from the top down, and that really causes the ball to, go low on a lot of throws and then also die when you're trying to really push it down the field. And there were no throws on his tape where he'd get on opposite college hash and rip a 15-yard out or that sort of thing. Not there. Any sort of deep shot that you saw, especially if it was outside the numbers. We make fun of some of the Tua videos with Tyreek when he first got there, where Tyreek has to stop and wait on the ball to get to him. That was nearly every deep shot for Shedeur. The ball placement and the accuracy is just kind of below average. Not a great processor. This was one of the tapes that was some of the most frustrating things that I saw, was watching him have guys wide open, even in the middle of the field, which is about the only place that he can work. He just see this wide ass open window. It doesn't get any more wide ass open. And he turned it down because he either didn't trust his arm or he wasn't trusting the protection. He gets super happy feet and just moves all over the pocket a lot of times for just no reason. I think the wide receivers made him look good a lot of the times. Like, count how many times when you're watching Shedeur Sanders stuff, how many times guys have to leave their feet to go get the ball. It's a bunch. And on top of all of that, like, I expected when I turned on Shedeur Sanders tape, like, I expected more out of the arm and the throwing and all of that. But I really expected more in the running game and with his athleticism. And holy smokes, he's not very fast, and it's not going to translate at all.
He doesn't escape that much out of the pocket. He doesn't run that much. You talked earlier about guys who look to extend, and I think he does do that a little bit. But I think folks think about primetime Sanders, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, his son must be incredible
have that
back there."
4.2 speed, right?
Right, and that super fast twitch. It's actually a little bit more, not as big, of course, but it's a little bit more like a Culpepper back there between the super over the top arm, although Culpepper's arm was big, and he's not actually looking to run that often. And as you're wrapping up this part too, Adam, but the one thing I want to point out is, like, there are all these flaws, but there's a big number on that screen that does stand out to me. And I wonder if you guys are, honing in on that one as well, because there's a lot of reasons that number should be maybe less given everything that you just laid out, Adam.
Yeah,
you know which one?
The 74% completion percentage.
I am, Brandon. You're always going to bring it up.
Oh, right. They count all the ones that are like within 2 yards of line of scrimmage and less, right? When they come up with completion percentage.
Is
that what they do?
They do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure we knew, because that's one of the things about the way that I evaluate it. Every throw that's like a horizontal throw, like, if you can make it, great. You should. I mean, it's one of the easiest throws in football, but those are literally neutral. Like, I just don't care. I forget about them. I'm not looking at those at all. And that's what a lot of his numbers, are inflated by.
Yeah, it's a little bit like what we saw. It's what made Bo Nix so hard to evaluate, because there were so many of those type of throws in the Oregon offense. So you really had to then pick and choose. You had to look really hard for those throws that were NFL style throws. And one of the things for me, though, Shedeur gets, he had a couple like really big highlight type throws that I think they stand out in your mind so much more than, like, I can't think of a Kyle McCord throw that just wowed me, but I can absolutely think of a play where I saw Shedeur roll to his left and, throw like a pretty tight window throw, like right near the pylon to his receiver. I don't even think that the play counted, but I just, that play stands out in my mind. And because of a play like that, yeah, it elevates him more than some of those other guys, because he's done something then that a lot of these other guys didn't show that they could do. And I would have Shedeur probably a little bit higher on my list too, though. And one of the reasons why I graded him a little bit higher in my eyes is that he wasn't looking to run so much. He was generally looking downfield to try and find guys. But obviously, the idea of the Mike Evans factor with him and Travis Hunter, it plays a lot into this too, because Travis Hunter going to be potentially the number 1 pick, maybe the number 2 pick, depending on how things go with Ward.
Yeah. What I want to make one more point, Adam, before I toss it back to you too. It's, you did mention he's real tough. Like he will take the hits. He will get back up. He will step up in the pocket. And to me, I think that does matter quite a bit. And, is he one of the more scheme dependent quarterbacks in your opinion? Let's say he gets in with a quick pass team, and there's a decent line there. Do you see enough that he could operate in an NFL offense with those factors?
If you want to average about 17 points a game, then sure.
All
right.
Yeah,
so
I just
not the QB.
it's just so subpar all the way around. Like there's nothing in his repertoire short of the toughness that I look at and I go, wow. Like I did see one throw where he rolled out left where I was like, oh, look at that. There's one. But that was so many games, and watching him just turn down so many wide ass open players, and it's just tough, man.
Well, I want to say to you, like the coronation last year of Caleb Williams, which was just it had to be him. It had to be him. He's this golden boy. It has to be him. And to both of your credits, you guys called that out long before that and said, no, he bails on stuff. He's not processing with an NFL mind at this point. And therefore, for that reason, I'm out. Right. And so I think there's some similar parallels to what we're seeing here. Sanders might go 2nd overall, might go 3rd overall, or he might fall quite a bit. I think he's going to be one of the most, one of the most wild card folks in this first round. And as Seahawks fans, no, I'm not interested in him at 18. I could be interested in him 3rd round and on personally for myself, but I just hope he gets selected before 18. This is a key dude that we need to tick one of those choices off. So one of those other types of line studs fall one more spot to us and they don't get gobbled up. So let's just be cheering on draft day 1 that he's called maybe in the first 3 picks. That would be good for us, I think.
I'm just proud of us that we didn't even mention the factor that the dad factor plays into this, that could cause a lot of extra drama. And so if he does fall outside the top 15, there is that potential that he does slide because other teams recognize that drama factor that might go along with that. If he's not starting right away, you might hear it through the media. If you do start him right away and he's not good, how much more of that is going to be a focus on the coaching staff too for not coaching him up well enough. And I think that because Deion Sanders is such a larger than life type character, it could play into the drama factor a little bit.
It could. I mean, that would be one of the reasons he could slide. The other thing would be that people watch the tape and they've just looked at it and they realize this is at best a day 3 pick, and he falls in the can't play category for me. Like he's just not an NFL quarterback. The next few guys that we get to, those are going to be in the, well, he might be able to play. He might. Like there's some NFL stuff there. Just don't see it for Shedeur. And dude, give him credit too. You know how hard it is to be the son of like a great athlete and get to the point to where he's going to make the league. Somebody's going to draft him.
Oh yeah.
And actually make the same league that your father did, like Bronny did in the NBA, or you can go on down the list. Like give him some credit for that. Give him his flowers for that. He's had to work for it, and I don't want to take any of that away from him. It's just, he's just not that guy.
Well, guys, as a son of a father who once bowled a 299, and to his credit, that last ball, he absolutely crushed the pocket. He just got the 10 pin just stood up on him and it crushed his soul a little bit. So I understand. My dad once bowled a 299, guys. So I understand having to stand that.
Did you ever live up to that? Did you ever come close, or
No,
were you always just in the shadow as like a 180 guy?
237 was my high mark, but I was more like a 190 average guy. So I enjoyed bowling. All right. So this is probably the biggest shock so far in the top 10. Let's continue on to number 6. Adam, who do you got at 6, and why can't he spell?
All right. I don't know, but number 6 is Shucker the Chucker, Tyler Shough from Louisville. And interesting tape to watch. He has the big pro arm. I mean, if we're going to start out with some of the good stuff, I mean, he can rip the ball. Don't make any mistake about it. Drives it well to all levels of the field. He's really good rolling to his right and having some nice accuracy. That for me, I just think that's a nice plus part of his game. He's nice deep down the sidelines too. And really, he looks the part if it were 2006. And that's really where the problem is for him. Is I know he ran around a bit in college. It's just that it's not enough. It's not enough to translate in the NFL. He's going to be a relatively mobile quarterback compared to his peers at that point. But the number one thing about Shucker the Chucker is I didn't see anybody on film who panicked harder in pressure and backpedaled and just threw it up for grabs than Tyler Shough. The decision-making at times is horrific. It's absolutely terrible. And that's the stuff that scares me to death when I'm looking at an NFL prospect. I mean, if you got all the traits, that's cool. But if you don't got it upstairs, it's going to be a long journey. I've seen more of these guys not figure that out. It feels so Jeff Georgie to me. It's not even funny. And at the end of the day, like, could he go somewhere, sit for 4 years, have somebody wrap their arm around him and get the decision-making process together? Yeah, that might happen, but I think it's going to be a long road for him. If that did happen, he might be able to get almost up to like maybe even a Matt Ryan type player. But for me, he's more likely a backup or a very low tier starter than a guy that you draft, you plug in there, and he's going to be your full-time starter for 2, 3, 4 years.
See, one of the things you said earlier, and which surprises me a little bit that he ends up this low on your list, is you talked about how having a high floor is important to you. And I feel like of a lot of these guys, Shough might have the highest floor, especially with some of the names that haven't been mentioned yet. I think that's where I end up putting him as a high floor guy, but ceiling wise, I have those questions too. And yeah, the Chucker mentality is definitely there. And in terms of pressure, I would agree too. Like the only other guy that I watched play quarterback that would probably be even near this list, and I'm guessing he might not even be on your list yet since we haven't seen him, is Brady Cook. And he was a guy who, as soon as the pressure was there, he would immediately run, and he has the legs to do it.
Yeah. And that's why Brady Cook wasn't on my list, is because, yeah, you could run around and that's fine, but your ability to handle pressure was poor. He didn't have any NFL traits. Tyler Shough has an NFL trait. He's got that arm. It reminds me a lot of a less mobile Drew Lock, where
sure.
You're like, hey, if you just rein in the bad decisions, like he could be real good. And that's how I feel about Shough. And the reason why I think his floor is lower than some of the guys we'll talk about later is that, I mean, decision making is paramount. Like that is decision making, accuracy, then arm talent, all that stuff, right? So if you don't have that, if that's your biggest weakness, then to me that says you get under pressure a little bit and you turn the ball over, that makes your floor crater. So I don't know if you see it the same way, Clinton, but.
Well, I mean, some of the interesting things about him too is that he pulled the Tommy boy. He's went to college for 7 years and he's not a doctor, and if he's still having processing challenges 7 years on, and he's played in lots of different systems, well, at some point you say you might have peaked, right? Now that could be coaching, and he's got pro talent, so that can still change. But I know that you like to play the what's more likely game. And after 7 years of college, it's probably not more likely that he develops that kind of knack for progressing, staying in the pocket, working to the second and third read, and being accurate after that, and maintaining good mechanics. So that part is difficult to project. So it feels to me it's like if everything were to hit for him, everything, because I'm going to mention a good NFL player, really good NFL player. If everything were to hit, maybe he's got the potential to be like a Drew Bledsoe, and it's more likely he's like, in your opinion, like a Will Levis. Is that kind of it, Adam?
Yeah, big time. That's exactly it. And you hit the nail on the head, because once I did find out that he'd been around the block as a quarterback and been in college for a long time, and the decision making was still that poor, that was a big no. But he does have an NFL trait. He really does. To me, this is a guy that I would, if you want to take a fourth or fifth round flyer on this guy. And a lot of times when I'm talking about what round I think they should be drafted in, this isn't like how the NFL works and the NFL draft works. The NFL wildly overdrafts quarterbacks by a mile. I'm saying, like, if you were
overpays them. Quarterbacks are, I'm just going to say it. Quarterbacks are overdrafted and overpaid.
There you go. There you go. So,
Nice job.
Yeah. At the end of the day, that's where he should be drafted. It's like, if you could draft, let's just say Drew Lock right now, knowing what you know now about Drew Lock, where would you draft him? You wouldn't spend more than a fourth or a fifth.
Right.
Yeah.
You wouldn't do it.
He's a backup at this point, right?
Yeah.
So that's where you'd spend for sure. Well, probably enough on Shough. We're halfway through, so we still got 5 to go. We got some doozies still coming up. We got one coming up right here as well. And as people are here, we got 115 folks or so chilling with us. Keep putting your comments in. Brandon saw a cool ask earlier. I think it's from Martin asking how we can support the show. So I want to say thank you to Martin. And I know you put the getintheflock.com on screen there. And if you're hanging with us, subscribe, like the video, comment on the video after it's live, subscribe to the channel, all those things. Super, super help.
And here's the thing, Martin knows he was a YouTube member, so he's supporting the show that way, and we appreciate that.
Oh, Martin, you coy man. We love you. We love you.
He got the plug for us in. Like,
of
that was
course.
smart. That was smart. That was good little flockering right there.
We love it,
the one thing we forgot with Shough is the howl line. Where is it for you guys? For me, he's right at the howl line.
Yeah, he's right there.
Sure. Hal has a big enough arm, and Hal can move a bit. He probably has a bigger arm.
But the processing stinks, and like you just shaking your head a lot.
But there's more upside there, and that's where I would, which keeps him at the howl line. So maybe even a little above, like just a tick.
Yeah, I'm gonna go at on par for me. For me. All right, so we're on to number 5.
To where I piss off the majority of the audience. Here,
Let's see it.
This is it right here. So at number 5, we had Ole Miss's Jaxson Dart. And look, when I turned on his stuff, like with all the hype and the name being around and everything, I was expecting more. I was expecting, frankly, a quite a bit more, just in terms of talent. And we can start with the good stuff. You know, if it's 10 yards or less and it's in between the hashes, middle of the field, dude's deadly. I mean, he gets it out on time. He can play on time and, hit those slants and, deep ends and that sort of thing. Well, mid ends, intermediate ends, about 10 yards and in. He doesn't just needlessly bail from the pocket. Like he'll stand in there, and when he does feel some pressure, he's got some good pocket presence and will get out and run around a bit. So that's nice. He can't get through reads, and I have a little hesitation saying that because I also felt like, who was the kid 2-3 years ago that came out of Ole Miss?
Desmond Ridder.
Oh. No, out of Ole Miss. Didn't make. He just got ran out of the league because apparently he was an alcoholic or something. Matt Corral. Allegedly, right? Yeah, exactly. Who knows? I mean, maybe he just didn't make the team. I have no idea. But like Matt Corral, like I thought he could get through some reads and stuff too, but then you kind of come to find out that Lane Kiffin system is really RPO-y and kind of planned out for the quarterback on where they're going with the ball. I do like that he takes care of the football. He knows when to throw it away. He's not just going to take a sack for no reason. And he can create a little bit outside of the pocket. Like he's got a little bit of NFL mobility. Like he can get out there and do some things. And and that's fun. At the end of the day, the accuracy's decent. Like in between the hashes, it's good. It's good. And then what it all boils down to, and I said I don't place, of all my like things that are important about a quarterback, arm strength is the least one, but you got to have enough. He legit doesn't have it. It's not there. Not even close. And you watch him try to drive the ball on, again, one of the throws I'm looking for throughout the season is opposite hash, 10 to 15 yard out. Can you drive it? And you see him complete those, but the ball dies. Receiver has to come back to it. All his deep throws that are outside the numbers, it's just like Shedeur Sanders. The ball dies. Guys have to stop. It's subpar. And he reminds me of a slightly more mobile, less arm strength Jimmy G. If he's going to play right between the numbers, that's one. Or the college tape looked a lot to me like Kenny Pickett. Like looked a lot like Kenny Pickett from Pitt when he was there. In terms of NFL guys, Kenny Pickett, Gardner Minshew, decent backup, low tier starter. I think that's Jaxson Dart. That would be my evaluation of him. And I think there's some guys that have just as much of a floor and more upside ahead of him here.
And speaking of upside, let's talk about me. Adam, what I have, Dogzilla Monster with the $2 super chat wants to know, would I have quick enough processing? And I will have you know that I really, really wanted to play quarterback, but I did not have the athleticism, especially when I played football in 6th and 7th grade. So I was on the offensive and defensive line instead.
Yep, I was a center. In terms of Brandon's processing, if you'd have been in the Discord today, you would see his processing is up to par. He was firing shots today, and it was fun. So yeah, he's got a nice noodle on him.
That's fun. Thank you, Dogzilla, too. You mentioned that he can create on the ground a little bit, and he did quite a bit of that. Dart, almost 500 yards rushing, couple of extra touchdowns that he was able to get in there. Again, he gets labeled with, and I mean this in a positive way this time, that he's like the big time leader. Like people go to war for him, follow him, et cetera, et cetera. I do respect that, and it means something to me. But again, it kind of caps out once you get to the NFL. It's either you have it or you don't, and you keep referencing the to the field, right? So in college with the hash is like to the bigger side of the field, down the field, outs and stuff like that. And that's why, like last year, when I saw the way Penix threw the ball, and I realized not everyone's going to be able to throw the ball like Warren Moon, and Penix to me is the closest thing. He's a lefty version of Moon, who I thought threw the.
I would argue CJ Stroud, but okay. Yeah.
Prettiest, tightest, and just on a rope ball. And I watched Penix do what he was doing, and I was like, oh man, like other stuff can develop. You can get a little bit more touch later. You can improve processing, et cetera, et cetera. But if you can throw like the 18-yard out to the field, to the wide field in college, you could do it in the pros. And it's interesting to hear that you kind of got a pop gun for an arm here. Well, and you can't learn that later.
Yeah. The funniest thing about saying that is one of the things, because I don't watch college football and I'm only watching the cut ups. And so I hear little bits of the announcers during plays. And they were on the 5 going in for a touchdown. Dart rolls to his left. It's a relative quick out to the end zone. So he rolls to the same side as the receiver and jams it in there. And it's like a 5-yard out, and he's rolled out to the same side of the field as the receiver. It was literally like a 7-yard throw. Like I could probably throw it as hard as
Brandon
he did.
Brandon could do that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe not as accurately, but I mean, throw it as hard. And it's just hilarious to hear the college announcers. Oh my gosh, look at that. That's arm talent. Look at that arm talent. And it's like, that is such a below average throw. Like, who cares? Like anybody should be able to do that who's out there doing it. And that's the problem with some of these prospects. They get hyped up a little bit. And I think this is one that I listened to the narrative of, oh, his draft stock's rising. Oh, he's a great fit and all that. And it's like, okay, that's cool, but it doesn't show up on tape.
One real quick
in the
thing
chat
too.
asking if you could add him, where would you be comfortable adding him within the Seahawks? Take him in the 4th, for example. It sounds like you're not. Well, it would end up not really mattering because he's probably not going to get to the 4th round anyway. But at what point would you be? Would that make you comfortable?
Well, let me ask you this: where would you draft Kenny Pickett right now?
He feels a little Kenny Pickett-ish, so I mean 3rd or 4th, probably 3rd.
Oh God,
I don't know.
Maybe a 5th.
It's
where
tough
would you draft Kenny Pickett right now, knowing what you know now about
Well, there's
Kenny
still
Pickett?
upside though.
All right, say Gardner Minshew then.
Yeah, well, he did
4 or 5.
Yeah,
I know 4 or 5.
4 or 5.
Yeah. But to the question, and that's a good one too. It's like I love bringing it back to Seattle. Like where might we consider him, right? Because it's a Seahawks podcast. There's a lot of rumors. There's rumors all the way up to the Jets at 7. Now may not happen, but that's the highest I've seen is Jets at 7, and then you've got a quote unquote obvious place with the Steelers at 21. But you mentioned Pickett. Are the Steelers really going to, tin cup this thing and be like overreach for a dude who probably does not deserve to be in the 1st round? Pickett was, I think, the 20th overall. So imagine the heat they'd be taking if they don't enter, they don't even get Rodgers, say, maybe they get him, maybe they don't. And then they use another 21st overall on Dart. So yeah, I don't think of all the people so far, I think this actually is probably the least likely guy to end up on Seattle, given all the parameters. Even Sanders falling to 18 and Seattle taking him, I think is more likely than Seattle taking. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm saying more likely. So I don't think we've got to worry about Dart is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of like ranking guys that you think are going to be backup quarterbacks, Josh. Like, all right, some have Dart above Sanders, and obviously I do, but so I mean, I just don't see Jaxson Dart as being a full-time mid-tier starter in the NFL. Yeah. Like, it just really doesn't look that way to me.
And to Josh's point, it's a good one. Almost everybody, every pundit, and this is what happens, right? Like we talked about Caleb Williams, and he gets anointed, and he's got to be number 1. It's got to be him. It's like, well, what if it wasn't him? What if Jaden was clearly a better quarterback and then it showed out, right? To Josh's point, Dart is basically cemented as he's number 3. And if in some boards he's 2, he's better. They have him over Sanders. So to even have him this low at 5 is something that's a pretty big spacing there. So I just, I wonder if the GMs around the league and all the pundits, they just feel like they have to toe a certain line because everybody's saying it, so it must be right. But then every year, it's not. That's not actually what happens.
I think with Dart, though, he has enough. It's not that he doesn't have any NFL traits, though, because he has some of the processing that's better than a lot of the guys that we've talked about.
Yep.
Being able to make multiple reads, like he has those types of things in his game. So that's what I think elevates him based on higher than a lot of the people that we've talked about up to this point.
Yeah. Right. And one of the things that you think about is like, okay, so they have some NFL traits. Like I'm looking at Jaxson Dart and I'm seeing a lot of Tua, or Bryce Young, where you're going, okay, I mean, sure, he's NFL mobile, and sure, he might be NFL processing. That's great. But the arm just flat out isn't there, and you can't make it up. Now, there's guys that can be right on the cusp when it comes to arm strength, where they get to an NFL camp, they throw the ball a lot and get their mechanics straight, and they can improve that a bit. We saw Brady improve his arm over the course of his career. I just think Dart's below that line. And I think that's what really limits him to be somebody like Bryce Young or to a low-end starter backup type of a player. And that's my concern with him.
All right. Interesting. I think the Tua one's interesting because he's making $53 million a year with an arm that he really can't get the ball out to Tyreek Hill 60 yards downfield, right?
Would the Dolphins do that deal now, though? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Well, all right, let's move on to number 4 on the big board. So, you know, you've had so at this point, right? Sanders and Jaxson Dart are already off the family
how
feud
aligned for
board.
Dart? How aligned for Dart?
Oh, Howline. I think Dart's. I'll put Dart above the Howline.
I'd put him above. Yeah,
I concur. I put him slightly above the Howline.
All right, there we go. And I know Gary was asking earlier if that's kind of like the Mendoza. Kind of, right? So for the baseball fans out there, Mendoza notoriously batted 200, 0.2, and that became the thing in baseball. That if you're not above that, then you're really not you're not pulling your weight as a hitter. It's kind of where most pitchers live. When
I
pitchers
could guess Adam's top 4 from here.
Well, let's see. Let's see if you can
put it out there. We'll see if it lines up.
Let's
What do you
play
got?
the game. What do you got for 4?
You want me to go in the order that I think you have it in too,
Well,
or
let's
just
just go
Yeah,
one. How about one at a time? Let's see if you get
Okay.
this one right.
Yeah,
well,
the
Cam
order.
Ward's going to be up there, obviously.
Okay.
One of my favorites will be up there, Dillon Gabriel.
Okay.
Jalen Milroe, we haven't talked about him. I think he's going to be up there. And then I think your sleeper pick, who a lot of people aren't talking about as a top 10 quarterback even, is Curtis Rourke from Indiana.
So one of the things I had forgotten about Rourke and didn't go back and rewatch him, but I do like some of the stuff that I saw, but no, Rourke isn't on the list, not because it's just, that was a miss by me.
Okay.
So yeah, but the little bit that I watched, I was like, that's interesting. Yeah. I think there's some stuff there.
Ooh, so a mystery 4th then if he's not on there.
Yeah. And so number 4 will be the mystery 4th, Clinton.
Yeah, let's see it. Let's see it. It is none other than here it is.
All right. National champion Will Howard from Ohio State.
Well, I said Will Howard. So there's another mystery, isn't there? Or did I not say Will Howard?
You did not say Will Howard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, Adam missed Rourke. You missed Howard. Let's call the whole thing off. So at number 4, Will Howard, the national champion, Adam. And I know you kind of like him.
I kind of like him. So he falls into the, I think he can play category, upper register. And yeah, but I think he's at the top of that. And there's a lot to like about Will Howard's game. And we can start with the feet stuff. So, kind of more of a power runner, but I don't think he's going to be doing that in the league like Josh Allen. I don't think that that's going to be the thing. Now, is he going to be able to move around and move the sticks from time to time and, have enough athleticism for that? Yeah, I think so. I think he's more Big Ben than he is Josh Allen in terms of the way that he moves and the way he can he's got nice pocket presence, slides around a little bit and can shake dudes off. And I think that's kind of where he lives. He's a really nice back shoulder thrower. That's something that I noticed a lot on the deep balls, which is a good thing because that'll kind of come to, one of the negatives. But I think he has just enough arm to play in the league because when you're looking at intermediate stuff and that includes some of the outbreaking stuff and all that, he can throw it on a rope. He can get it there. And it's not lasers, but you look at it and you go, you know what? Like, you'll sneak that past a guy. It's not like Kirk Cousins after an Achilles. We saw what that looked like when the arm falls off and you just can't get the zip on it. He plays on time and can get to that first read and get it out on time. I like that. He doesn't take unnecessary sacks for the most part. He knows when to throw it away. He can layer throws too. Like you see a lot of crossers and he'll take some off and make it easy, a nice catchable ball for the receiver. And I think that's a big deal. Something that doesn't get talked about enough with a lot of these guys. He's got great pocket presence. He's super calm in the pocket and he's got an easy kind of compact throwing motion. It comes out quick. And one thing I really like is I saw him under center. I didn't see any of these other guys under center at all. Like he would do it sometimes and look competent doing it. And obviously a good enough leader to take a talented team and win a national championship and play that point guard type quarterback. And, one of the things that these guys get banged on, I think McCarthy got banged on for this too, is like, well, he wasn't asked to do much. I mean, everybody else around him and blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, when he is asked to do stuff, he comes through. And I think that's a big deal. And I think with the way that the NFL is moving, with everybody playing too high, defenses getting smaller, people are going to be running the ball more. Quarterbacks, the days of 45, sitting back and throwing it 45 times, I think those are going to be in the past moving forward. And guys are going to be throwing it more like 25 to 35 times. And so to rely on throwing it a bunch and getting in a rhythm is going to be tough for dudes. And he doesn't need that. You can ask him to just throw it occasionally in when it's time, he can turn it on just like JJ did. And I think that's impressive. A couple of bad things. The ball doesn't always come out clean. He throws some ducks sometimes. Like they're just not nice. And to quote Peyton Manning, he threw a lot of ducks for touchdowns. So, that's nice, I guess. I think the thing that I need to see the most out of Will Howard is it was just a lot of first read throws. Just see it, throw it, done. And, less than pretty much everybody on the list. And that's a product of college football to begin with. But we just didn't see it out of Will Howard. They didn't ask him to do it. And so it's just not on the tape. Now, can he do it? I don't know. Maybe. Hard to say. I do think that when he's pushing the ball downfield, especially outside the numbers, the ball dies on him. And that's where he's going to need to increase that arm strength just a little bit. And I think he's right on the cusp of it. I think he's got enough where, as opposed to some of the guys we talked about earlier, where it's like, I don't care how many curls they do. Like that arm ain't getting strong enough for this. Will Howard can do it. And I think that puts him like in that third round category to me, is like a guy where you're like, worth it. I'd give it a shot, but I'm certainly not guaranteed a mid-tier starting quarterback.
It's weird because we've talked about that Mike Evans effect on quarterbacks, and I think with Howard, so many more people recognize it because it's Ohio State, and so many NFL caliber wide receivers have come out of there, and so I think a lot of people are hesitant to really level him up because of that part of it. And I mean, you talked about it a little bit there too, that you recognize that. And especially with the first read thing, right? Well, if your first wide receiver is getting open every single time and you throw it to him, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's just what you should do as a quarterback.
Yeah. If it's open, throw it, right? Yeah. But with him, I think the accuracy is there. I don't see him getting bailed out by receivers nearly as often as, say, like watching Shedeur, where how many times are they leaving the feet? No, it's happening. Like he's not Drew Brees back there, but I think he's a little more accurate than he's getting credit for in that way. I don't know if you see it like that, Clinton.
I do. I think he's good. I think he could play, and I think it is a product of I don't watch a ton of college football, but I of course got into the college football playoffs, and if you look at what Dart did, one of the strongest criticisms against Dart is that he had some of his poorest performances against the top tier talent. He's playing a top 20 team, a top 10 team, and he would have one of his worst games. And you could say there's lots of factors that go into that. You just whatever. Like if your offensive line breaks down, good luck, right? Pat Mahomes had a problem with that a couple times in 2 Super Bowls now. Not against the Niners, though, by the way, ironically. But where Dart struggles or had struggles against top tier talent, all we saw Will Howard do is basically pitch perfect games in the biggest moments. That matters to me. So I saw it. I like it a lot. One of the things I want to point out on screen is that when I built these slides out, there was some sites saying, oh, round 3, round 4. Now there's a lot of rumors that this is a potential candidate for like a team like, say, like the Giants to trade back into the first round to get that 5th-year protection and or kind of just wait and then take him top of the second round. So he's really starting to rise quite a bit just in general. He's kind of peaking with a few weeks to go. So if we're hoping that we would take him at like 90 or 92, one of our 2 picks in the 3rd round, it's looking likely that we would maybe have to go to 50 or 52. So Brandon, I'll toss it to you. Do you like him, and would you be willing to spend one of your 2 second rounders on Will Howard?
I would say no, because there's these other 2 quarterbacks coming up that we're going to talk about that I like Howard a little bit more than I do Jalen Milroe. So there would have to be a lot of quarterbacks off the board then for us to get to the second round and go, oh, well, we better trade up for Will Howard, because while I think he has some upside and that leadership part of it, I look at we're still above the Sam Howell line, but it's not a huge amount above the Sam Howell line that I'd be willing to give up a 2nd or 3rd round pick to still have a potential backup quarterback that I would hope that would be a starting quarterback.
Yeah,
That's
I would
fair.
I'd put him a little higher than you above the Howell line. But with that said, I don't know that I look at Will Howard's game and say there's anything about it that's elite NFL level. Like where you'd look at it and be like, that could be an elite trait. I see a lot of stuff where I'm like, man, his size and his pocket, that's good. Like, he gets it out on time, that's good. And just on down the line, a lot of good. But I don't see anything great. And that's why I have him below, obviously, Milroe, because he hasn't popped up on the list, because he doesn't have any of the really elite, twitchy type stuff to him, whether that's with the arm.
And Milroe has the speed, clearly.
Yeah. So, Clinton, I don't know if you have anything more on Big Will here, but God, 6'4", 236. He's a big boy.
Yeah, nice. He's got the right frame.
When you compared him to Big Ben, it's not. I didn't get that takeaway necessarily watching the film, but he does. I mean, Ben was a little bit bigger. He was probably 6'5", 240.
Yeah, that's right. He was a smidgen on both sides, a little bit bigger.
Yeah,
I think
he was
it's
like 6'6", 320.
Oh, maybe he was 6'6".
Yeah,
6'6",
especially towards the end. Yeah,
toward the end, he was definitely more 270, 280.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, he was 7'1", 491. He was a big guy.
By the time he retired, he was 8 feet tall and weighed
he's
600 pounds.
He's like the reverse Benjamin Button. He just keeps on growing,
but
right?
So those dimensions you just listed, Brandon, that was just his head.
He's got a giant noggin.
Got a big melon.
Yeah. So no, but I like where you placed Howard. I think it's I think this one's kind of in the pocket, and it's a good place for him too. And we'll see where he goes. One of the nice parts about Howard, the last thing I'll say about him is I don't think he is like scheme dependent to be successful because of what you said. It's like, okay, that's good. Okay, that's good. Okay, enough processing, or at least enough. That first guy's open, I'm going to fire the ball. He's got enough escapability, the nice sliding in the pocket. So it'll be interesting to see where the heck he goes. But if the Titans end up taking him early, they'll be taking Cam Ward, so it won't be him. But a team like the Giants, a team like Pittsburgh, I think he could do a lot worse. So pretty cool prospect. But that leaves us with a top three. And remember, for the folks that might be just tuning in right now, Jaxson Dart already off the board. He was number 5. Shedeur Sanders already off the board. He was number 7. Lots of folks are hot and heavy on Tyler Shough. Nope, he's gone. He's number 6. So there are a couple of unlikely names in this top 3. Adam, who's taking the bronze on this beautiful pedestal you created?
Well, these guys, the last 3 guys, these fall into the tier for me of like, I think this guy could be a legit NFL starter. And first one for me on that list at number 3 is Dillon Gabriel of Oregon. When I turned on Dillon Gabriel and started watching his stuff, that's what I expected Shedeur Sanders to look like. Like, from everything that I was told about Shedeur, like, that's what I expected to see. And to be honest, watching his U-tape, closest thing I've seen to Russell Wilson coming out of college since Russell Wilson. I understand the 5'11" thing. I know people are way down on the short quarterbacks, but it's so funny. We'll get to something with one of the next quarterbacks about this as well, is like previous success or failures, or just recent previous success or failures. That really does seem to shape narratives around guys coming out. Remember when Russ was in his heyday and all of a sudden, like, Kyler Murray's fine. Don't worry about it. He's just a short quarterback. He'll be great. And now, as Kyler has kind of faded, not because he's short, but because of processing and work ethic and attitude and a lot of those things. And Russell Wilson has finally faded away as his athleticism has kind of waned and all that. And seeing Tua struggle because he doesn't have an arm. You start looking at those things, you're like, oh, I guess the short quarterback thing just isn't a thing. And then you forget about Drew Brees and you forget about Russell Wilson. And now Dillon Gabriel's barely talked about, which blows my mind because, starting out with some of the good, he plays great on time and he's even better when he's off schedule. And I think it's super impressive. He's great rolling to his right or to his left. When he's rolling to his right, which, because he's a lefty, isn't where he normally would be his weak side, I guess you would put it. Like, he can still throw darts off platform. His feet don't have to be set in any particular way on that sort of thing. Really, really impressive. The arm, sneaky good arm. Like, you know what? Better than sneaky good arm. Clinton, I sent you a clip earlier that when I was watching all 22 stuff of Gabriel, he was playing Ohio State. So top notch competition. They've run a stutter go on the outside. He's standing on his own 15 when he lets the ball go on the opposite hash. So he's thrown to the field side, and he threw it to the opponent's 35-yard line in stride, on just perfect. Dude, because he didn't have to break stride, drug the DB another 15 yards and damn near got a touchdown out of it just on that one play. I think they scored later. He's more of a scrambler than a runner. Like, he's not scrambling around to look to try to break it. Now he can, it shows up on tape, but he's really looking to throw when he's running. He works all areas of the field. He does not discriminate. It's not that same dink and dunk Oregon stuff that usually guys get dinged with, like Bo Nix did last year. And then when you really dug in, you're like, oh, look, when they did ask him to do it, he can definitely do it. That's Dillon Gabriel. The ball placement is really good, and he can take a little off of it too and throw us some nice touch and layer it in there. Couple of the bad things. He does struggle with accuracy at times when he doesn't get, let's see, it'd be his left foot or left hip all the way through the throw. When he starts just kind of trying to chuck it just with his arm and not really rotate that left hip through, that's when he starts having a few accuracy issues. And the other thing is I didn't see I saw it at times, but not a lot of getting through progressions. He really did kind of get locked on the first read and jam it in there. And usually dude was open, but I don't know what Oregon quarterbacks have done to the league. I don't know if they pissed in all the GM's Cheerios, but they have been pushed down the board when they should be pushed way up. And Brandon, you brought up Dillon Gabriel to me and was just like, have you checked out Michigan again with Dillon Gabriel? I was like, nah. First one I turned on, it was good. I was like, damn. And then the thing is that against top level competition, the OSU's of the world, things like that, you start rolling through it and you're like, damn, that one's good. That one's good. That one's good. This guy's could be a legit NFL starter. And I think he sees the middle of the field way better than Kyler or Russ ever did. And I'm a fan. I think he could be a bottom of the first, top of the second type player. I think that's where he should be valued. And I like him a lot, Brandon. And you were on it before me.
I wouldn't be mad if they took him there. And I know a lot of people after the Russell Wilson experience say, yeah, I don't want a short quarterback because I don't want to abandon the middle of the field.
I like trophies.
I like trophies. Yeah, Russ got us there. He had the athleticism. He had the arm. And that, like you mentioned, it just because he's a shorter quarterback doesn't mean he can't see the middle of the field. He actually sees the middle of the field, I think, better than we saw from Russ. So I went through it, and I was at the reason why I went to the Michigan game too, by the way, is because they have like a first round talent at corner. And so I wanted to see what he would do against a defense that had a first round caliber player at corner, just to see how that impacted him and affected him. And which is why I had Dillon Gabriel ahead of Jalen Milroe, because what I saw from Milroe, well, he just didn't have any time to throw against Michigan. So part of that was offensive line, and he just got, steamrolled by that Michigan defense. So comparing the two against, and it was 23 versus 24. So a little bit different in terms of talent, but just to have some of that comparison, it made Dillon Gabriel my second favorite quarterback of the draft.
Yeah. And responding to Zach real quick, I was told that we were basically a troll stream when I put Bo Nix at number 2 last year.
And that's the thing about Oregon. It's like, it's such boring college football to watch because it's like all these little quick outs to the receivers and really quick throws. And so you go, oh, well, this guy can't have an arm because all he does is throw these little checkdowns. And so you have to almost go throw by throw and go and just, like you said, throw out all the ones that are within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage and just focus on the actual throws that are down the field. Yeah. And this guy does it.
Yeah. Clinton, does that show up for you, or does this seem troll streamy to you? I don't know.
No, for me, I like Dillon Gabriel. I think he has a legit shot. I think you said, I wouldn't add too much to what you said. I think you said it very well already. I have kind of an affinity for like lefty quarterbacks. I just think they're kind of cool. I mentioned Penix about 1,000 times so far. I was a big Boomer Esiason fan growing up. And I think it adds a little bit of a different wrinkle too. And I think about system fit and the condensed formats and the bunch things that Kubiak likes to do. I don't have the same concerns about, especially Kyler Murray, right? He's not that short, first and foremost. And I think we've seen enough that I think Dillon Gabriel does read the middle of the field, at least well enough, right? The one thing about the arm, besides the play that you share with me today, at the combine, they do that thing, and it might seem stupid, but they do that thing where they just line up and the quarterbacks throw the ball as hard as they freaking can into the padded wall. And you could take that or leave it, but his arm, Dillon Gabriel's, also really shows out there. Yes, that might be a short pass, but they're just trying to show off arm, like the velocity they could put on the ball. Dillon Gabriel is top tier with that stuff. So he absolutely does have a kind of a compact cannon. He's one of my faves. I think he has a legit shot. And, to Zach's point, will he get into the first or early second? Maybe. And it won't be us, right? I don't think that'll be where Seattle takes him. But if he's sitting around at 90, 92, one of our third rounders, and we're like, hey, let's go take a flyer. This to me is a real worthy flyer in that third round. I'd be hard to say ecstatic because I'm not sure we need a QB, but I'd be very, very pumped if he's a Seahawk by pick 90. That'd be cool.
I'm sure we need a QB. I'd be pumped if he were there in the third, and I would take a lefty over a redhead any day. But that's just me, just anti-ginger for no reason. No, I'm just kidding. At the end of the day, this guy, he just screams Russ. He screams Russ with the way that he plays.
Everybody's
football.
Remembering the bad Russ. We're talking good Russ.
Yeah, remember Hall of Fame trajectory Russ? Like top 2 or 3 in the NFL top 100 year in, year out Russ? That sort of guy. Now, I do think that he's less twitchy as a runner and a scrambler, but I think that he is a better thrower over the middle of the field by enough of a margin that it's noticeable, like very noticeable. Yeah. And I think he would fit in a Kubiak system very well. I think that's something that he could do. And I'm not scared away by the height is now, again, I don't know their heights and weights when I'm putting them on the screen and I'm starting to look. I was like, oh, he's shorter. Like it stood out. I mean, I saw it, but he never looked like he was playing undersized. Like every time I've watched Kyler Murray play, even back at Oklahoma, I'm like, there's no way that dude's 5'11". He's like 5'8" tops. Like he looked just completely smaller. So I like Dillon Gabriel a lot. Again, it's crazy pill stuff to me when I see that he is thought of so lowly.
One last thing before we move on to the 2-1 spot too, we're going to be doing a tight end show on April 11th with Max Toscano, who operates Remember the Tight Ends. And I bring that up to say also when you're watching this tape and you're like, is he using the middle of the field? Terrence Ferguson from the Ducks, same Oregon guy, he's kind of getting a bit of a rise right now in a really strong tight end field. And while he's more of that move tight end and not much of a blocker, or so they say, I got to go watch more on him, but he's still operating the middle of the field. So just, if you're doubting, can a shorter guy operate the middle? I think Drew Brees operated the middle quite fine in the right type of offense. And in fact, with a masterclass of doing that, but just go watch, even just go turn on the Ferguson tape because the dude throwing the ball is Gabriel, and just evaluate that. You want to watch a 5-minute YouTube video and be like, can Gabriel operate the middle of the field? Check out the tight end. He had a really, really nice year and you'll see a lot of it. And it's there. It's enough on film for me, man.
Yeah, for sure. Fun tape to watch if you just like to see a guy who just understands how to play the position of quarterback. And it was a joy to watch. I Adam as a coin flip with the next guy because you could switch these two around for me and I'd be like, that's fine. And for very different reasons, I like them high. And so that brings us to number 2, Clinton. Mm-hmm. And I already know a couple people in the comments are going to hate this already. But Jalen Milroe from Alabama. And before we get deep into it, let's start with just the throwing. And I saw a couple comments already. Dude needs to move to tight end, all that. That's what I thought, just based on what you'd hear. And I'd watched maybe a half of one game, and it must have been one of his worst, where I was just like, oh God, yeah, no, he just.
If it was the Michigan game where that was,
it might have been. Yeah, it was bad. Like I was like, oh man, this isn't going to be fun. So I watched him late. Actually, he was one of the last guys I watched because I just wasn't looking at it, or I just didn't want to watch it because I was just like, this guy's going to stink, and I don't want to do it. And then as I turned it on, I start going through stuff. I'm like, oh crap, look at that! Like. That was on time. That was accurate. That was on time. That was accurate. All right. That one was a little off, but it wasn't a big miss. And what I really want to get to with the throwing is understand that when I'm looking at these guys, can they fix it or can they make it better? I just want to give you my track record on this so that you know that I usually get this right. Josh Allen coming out of college. You all remember that? Can't hit the broadside of a barn. Dude's terrible. Can't throw the ball. He was my number one quarterback in that draft by far. I said he'd be a super duper star because the misses weren't nearly as big as people thought that they were. And he would have spurts of accuracy that was like, that's really good NFL accuracy. Lamar Jackson, same thing. He needs to be a receiver, all that stuff. I think he was number 2 for me in that draft. Both are MVP quarterbacks, it turns out, because they did have enough. They showed it in spurts, the ability to be accurate and on time and be smart with the football. And you could see the things that really get them in trouble. And that's what I see with Jalen Milroe, because the flip side of that coin is Malik Willis that came out. And I said, nope, that dude ain't ever going to figure it out. He doesn't have the short bursts of the accuracy. Or Anthony Richardson when he came out. And I said, dude can't be a quarterback. He needs to go do something else because he'll never be able to figure that out. And it's all proven out to be that way. And so I see Jalen Milroe in that camp of Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson way more than Jamarcus or Kyle Bowler or, any of these other huge arm dudes that couldn't hit the broadside of a barn or throw it in the ocean from the beach. And he's a much better thrower of the football than he's getting credit for. And I'm really excited about it. He attacks all levels of the field. There's lots of tight window throws on the film too, which you don't see that with a lot of these college guys because a lot of times defenses are bad. He's not a first read only guy. He does get through progressions. He'll stand in there and take hits like a champ. He's relatively cool under pressure. And the ball placement when it's on is actually pretty good. He'll throw dudes away from contact. Whereas when I was watching Shedeur, I don't know how many hospital balls I saw him throw, but that's not Jalen Milroe. He's good off platform and he's really good on the move. And then we get to the running and that's, Josh Allen, Cam Newton level type running. And it looks a lot like that. That will not only translate, it will dominate in the NFL if he can marry it up with a little bit better passing. He's not going to come into the league the first year and make it happen. It's going to take him a year or two. But the upside to this is outrageously high. His floor is relatively high because he can survive with just his legs because it's that good. I see him as a Cam Newton type, more so than Josh Allen. Some of the bad stuff, I think he's a little quick to run sometimes. Like I think that's something that, as a college guy and you're having to survive a Ryan Grubb, Kalen DeBoer type offense that you probably end up doing a little bit. The processing could be a little quicker. It's a little slow, but I think that he can speed up that clock with, full-time NFL coaching. And the overall deep ball placement could be better. He can get it down there. He can throw the deep ball. It looks nice, but there's times where you're like, damn, like I've seen you do better than that. I like him a lot. Like I said, you could flip-flop him with Gabriel for me, but this guy has a chance to be a super duper star, but I don't feel as strongly about him as I did Josh Allen.
And the reason why I flip-flopped them in my mind too was more of that, gosh, I don't know if you watched the Oklahoma game from 2024, but he threw some like the worst interceptions against Oklahoma that really had Alabama out of that. Like, the crazy thing about the Oklahoma game, you see, I think his first 2 throws, and you're like, oh my gosh, that dude's an NFL caliber. Like, he has the arm and can squeeze it into a tight window. And then later on in the game, he throws it like behind the line of scrimmage into like for no reason, like throwing it directly to the defender, an Oklahoma defender, which, you know, I rate that even more poor because they don't play defense, although they did have a pretty good safety this year. But so I'm a little bit biased that way. Shoot, maybe my bias shows because Dillon Gabriel was a former Sooner too. But I do like the upside, especially watching him against Michigan in 2023 and then seeing some of the and I didn't watch a lot of other 2023, so I don't have that frame of reference necessarily, but it seems like he improved on some of the things that he was then able to do in the 2024 season. So just through the few games that I watched, I think that it's like the upside is there with Milroe as to what people thought Anthony Richardson could be.
Oh yeah,
but it's actually there.
Yeah, it's actually there, right? Like, the AR tape was so god awful, and I could not understand for the life of me why people were goo-goo, for this guy. I don't care that he can hit the roof at his pro day. Like, that's about the only thing he can hit. Like, it was so awful. I look at Milroe, I see a quarterback. The only thing I'm concerned about, the rocked up guys, that doesn't have a great track record. Get out of the weight room a little bit, Jalen. I think that'd help. I don't know, Clinton. Jalen Milroe, I'd see you making a squinty-eyed face.
Well, you're saying the rocked up guys, Jalen Hurts is pretty rocked up, right? The dude squats like a
B plus.
The dude's pretty rocked up. He squats about 1,000 pounds, right? And he just
see Clinton looks at the bottom rocks. He's not looking at the top rocks.
Yeah.
Wasn't that part of the discussion in our Discord today? I'm pretty sure there was something about that.
Something
right?
like that.
Yeah, something like that. I think you got me excited about Milroe because people are pissing the Cheerios about him and that he's not a quarterback. Clearly, he's just a running back, et cetera, et cetera. So where my mind started going is, well, is this a potential fit for Kubiak if he wants to make sure he goes and gets his next Taysom Hill or Taysom Hill plus? And I think that's, spinning it back to the Seahawks, that's actually I think it's a real possibility. And we have 4 picks spanning 50 to 92. Now, I don't expect him to get out of the second round. I think because again, quarterbacks get pushed up. He's got the traits. There's got to be, of the 32 GMs out there, there's got to be somebody seeing it the way you're talking about it, Adam. You mentioned 3 quarterbacks in your your soliloquy there. You mentioned Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Cam Newton. One dude's a multiple MVP winner, and the other 2 guys won MVPs. So that type of ceiling, my bet is that there's at least one other GM that sees it that way. And if you're let's say the Giants, right? Like, why would you take Sanders at 3 when you could either trade up, trade back into the first round, or likely just go get Milroe top of the second, and then you might be sitting there with like Abdul Carter and Milroe. Well, that's a pretty fascinating start, right? And last thing before I toss it back to you, Brandon, but chonking it back to the Seahawks at 50 or 52, if he's there and we like him, and Kubiak is like, dude, get me him. I gotta say, I'm into that, Brandon.
Absolutely. And we've got Josh Dehuman in the chat saying, Adam, if you're comparing Milroe to Lamar, remember who our head coach is and the team he was the defensive coordinator for. It could be something he is looking for.
Yeah, that's one of the things when you think about fit for the Seahawks. You hear Mike McDonald talk about it. It didn't materialize last year, but it sounds like it might this year. They want to pound the rock. They want to be that physical team. And that's Jalen Milroe. Like, he could absolutely be that sort of quarterback for the franchise. And I think that's where the league is going. And we talked a little bit earlier about Gabriel and some of the problems he might be having in the draft process because of people's recency bias with Russ, looking at Kyler and all the short quarterbacks and being like, not into it. Well, it's funny to watch well, Josh and Lamar come into the league and everybody's like, I don't know, like you can't have that. And then they succeed and everybody goes, oh, wow, look, you can do this. You can teach accuracy. It's fine. They go out and they draft Will Levis and they draft Anthony Richardson and they burn and flame out. And everybody goes, oh, God, I guess it doesn't work. And now we get to Jalen Milroe. And I think Anthony Richardson owes him some money. Like, because I think he's hurting his draft stock just by the recency bias that people have. And so I'm hopeful that there are a lot of GMs that are able to see around that corner and give him his due, because he isn't just a wide receiver. This dude plays quarterback. He's got a feel for it.
So a little bit of the reverse Brock Bowers going on, where like I think some of the tight ends are getting elevated, likely because of the success of Bowers last year and how quote unquote far he fell down the board. Because if you redo that draft, you're taking Brock Bowers earlier than he was selected a full year ago. So we spent a good amount of time, which is great, on number 3 and number 2 with Gabriel and Milroe, both basically outside the top 3 for almost every single pundit that's out there, almost every single one. So I think it's a fascinating discussion. And
well above the Howl line, right? Like,
we well above the Howl line. Yeah, well above. Yeah. And due to, you could see in the Seahawks offense and being like, all right, second or third round where we have capital, could be really intriguing for either of them. So we have one left. I think everybody knows which one that is, but let's get to it. Adam, spend as much time as you want on this guy, but he's a winner. He's intriguing. He's going to go number 1 overall, and he's number 1 on your board.
Yeah. So obviously it's Cam Ward, and look, we're not going to spend a ton of time on Cam Ward. And the reason is I mean, let's say you were applying for law school and you applied to Harvard Law and you're like, ooh, I really hope I get in there. Then you apply to the University of Montana Law School as your safety. And like, both are fine enough schools. Like, one's awesome and one's fine. Cam Ward is the safest safety first round quarterback pick that I've seen in a while. Like, he's nice in the quick game and he's got a quick release. He keeps his eyes up when he's running around the pocket and, doesn't, even when it's dirty and there's people at his feet, and makes plays down the field. And, he runs to throw rather than just kind of running around as a last resort. He's got a little bit of clutchiness to him. A lot of nice on target throws that you see over and over again to all levels of the field. He can push the ball downfield and hit those deep shots, but none of it is wowing. Like, it's all like, yeah, that's all first round quarterback stuff. And he does it all. And he's got the size and he's got that point guard QB kind of built in. I think he could be a very solid starter, but he feels a lot like even Sam Darnold did when he came out the year he did. It's like, yeah, he checks all the boxes and I see it on the film, so it's not a lie, but I kind of walk away just, okay. Like, that's a nice first round quarterback. Just doesn't excite me. And I don't know that I can put my finger on it.
Okay. So one of the things I'd like to do with this one is, just because he is the number 1, because we had the rankings from last year.
Yes. Exactly.
I'm curious to think of where you then end up placing Cam Ward in that list. If Cam Ward were to come out with last year's group of quarterbacks, I put him actually ahead of Caleb, who I think was my, well, I want to say, was Caleb my 4 or 3, or was McCarthy my 3? I think he's top 5 still, but he's closer to the back end of the top 5 than the top end of my top 5.
He'd be my number 7. And it's because I don't see anything that's elite at the NFL level. I see like all above average stuff. Like the deep ball accuracy outside the numbers, he needs to work on it. It's not perfect. Like, It's not terrible. He's slightly more twitchy than Teddy Two Gloves, I'd say. But the running is not plus running. Like, it's going to be enough to where he's going to be able to get out of trouble and move the sticks and do all that. But he's not going to flip the field with his running like, any of the guys that you think of, like Jaden, Lamar, Allen, so on and so forth. And it's about 1 in every 15 to 20 throws. He just has an absolute uncorker. Like, it's not just a miss, like it's a big miss. And you're like, where did that come from? but he is a super high floor, not a high ceiling, just like Carly says here. And she's right on it. And so for me, that would put him about 7 on this list. Now, I know there's no way, Clinton, he's above Michael Penix, because you love Michael Penix more than, just about anybody, I think. Maybe even your dog, poor Bella. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, he would not be above Michael Penix, no. But one of the best things in life is getting new members. So I want to give some love to Marvin Little Deer. He just became a YouTube member right here on youtube.com/Seahawkers podcast. And for anybody who's new out there, if you want to become a member here on YouTube, that's amazing. Like Marvin just did. We love that. We love the super chats. Thank you for those that contributed those today so far too. And just becoming a member or going to getintheflock.com. So Marvin, really appreciate that, dude. That's awesome. I think you look back at last year's class and it's just, there's a reason that 6 of these dudes went in the first round. Like, it's just like, okay, you look at the names now, and while Bo Nix became a bit of a surprise, you guys were on it. But while it was a big surprise for most that Sean Payton saw it too, like you're looking at Cam Ward saying, okay, he's 7th on this board. So if you're the Tennessee Titans, and yes, you do not have a legitimate quarterback sitting in Nashville right now, they're going to do it. They're going to take Cam Ward. But I guess the question for me, Brandon, I'll throw it to you first, would be, is it not to say it's don't judge the word right on like, what's the right thing to do? Is it the right thing for Tennessee to draft Cam Ward versus say Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, straight up on who do you think will be the better NFL players?
I have questions about how well Cam Ward's going to be able to perform behind the Tennessee offensive line. So it's kind of a backwards way of, and a lot of franchises do this. They draft the quarterback when they have the opportunity, but they're not quite situated for that quarterback to have success. Mm-hmm. And that's why I worry a little bit about Tennessee, but I can understand them being in the position they're in because of, you hope as a franchise that you're doing well enough then that you can build up those other pieces and put that around him. So I would put likelihood of success soon. He's going to be in a tough situation, and it makes it a bummer for those guys.
Well, and the other problem for somebody like Cam coming in this year is that we all have that same recency bias once again from last year, where you saw these rookies come in, even May, and do really cool stuff. That's funny. I mean, they were all good. They were all good. But all those young QBs came in and looked moderately good. I think Caleb probably looked the worst out of all of them. And he still had moments, right, where you're like, hey, look at that. Like, I can see why that's a first-round quarterback. Not my cup of tea. I probably wouldn't have taken him, but that's okay. I think Cam Ward's going to have a hard time living up to those expectations if he gets drafted number 1 with the Titans, because I think if you were the Titans, the smart thing to do, and the fans would hate it, is you draft him number 1 because you have the number 1 pick, and he's a first round quarterback. Like, might as well take him. I think he can be a starter. Then sit him for the entire year, come back in the draft next year, try to address that offensive line a little bit more, build up the team, and then give him some time to learn the NFL, watch him from the sideline, and then throw him out there. Honestly, that would be my plan for every single quarterback that ever came into the league. Like, this idea of, well, they can't learn anything unless they're out on the field is the dumbest narrative I have ever heard in my life. I think that every dude should sit at least a year, and it would be better for their deal long-term. And that's even Jaden Daniels.
Don't take away Jaden Daniels' rookie season from me. That was awesome.
It was awesome.
Hey, don't take away Russell Wilson's either while we're at it. Let's keep Russ's too.
I'm just saying, I think almost every dude would benefit. Okay, let maybe not every single guy. I'd say other than maybe the top 5% of prospects that ever come to the league at quarterback, I think 95% of them would benefit from sitting, and Cam Ward's one of them.
Well, I think we've seen it over and over again now that a lot of them get they get off to a rocky start, and then they don't recover. Now they don't recover, or they recover later, as in like Sam Darnold or Geno Smith. Like, they recover, but it takes them a good chunk of their career to either get into an organization where they could have the right stability, the right scheme, and then actually learn. Talking about sitting behind somebody, Darnold was on the Niners and sat there for a year. And I think that helped him, probably humbled him a bit. He kind of knew what he was walking into at that point of his career. But I could almost guarantee you that it also helped him to become who he was last year with O'Connell. So I think it's a valid point. The thing is, GMs and coaches aren't going to do it because they just cost too damn much. Even though you're getting the 5th-year protection, you sort of are, but you're really not. Like with quarterbacks, it's like, oh, you take a dude in even tackles, even wide receivers. Oh, we got the 5th-year protection. Guys are not afraid to sit out now and be like, no, I don't want the 5th year. Like, and I don't want the franchise tag. Pay me. And then you end up paying the dudes anyway, right? So it's like the 5th-year thing is a little bit, certain positions, I think it's more valuable. Running back, actually, I think is a strong one where it's more valuable. And it's less valuable, especially for the first overall pick with a quarterback. So, but I think it's an awesome discussion.
I think this is where people get stuck in GM brain. GM
well,
brain bothers me because
but I agree.
It's so wrapped up.
I agree with you. I think it's also dumb.
We spent this much in capital and we spent this much in dollars. Isn't the point of drafting that guy and drafting that guy high is to have him succeed? Doesn't that make your GM job like continue by being right in making it right for them? Like, maybe, I think the idea of, I don't want to waste one of his rookie year deal years is insane. If you waste his entire rookie deal because you throw him out there before he's ready and he's seeing ghosts.
I agree.
It doesn't make sense.
You're right. Right. I think you're right. I think the logic's right. The characteristics of a team taking a quarterback in the first round is often they're a bad football team. And often when that's the case, you got GMs and coaches that are not on the most solid ground. So you all those things go in a blender and they don't make decisions for the long term. They're often making decisions to be like, if I play him and he stinks this year, no one's going to fire me. I'll get a year or 2 with him, maybe 3 years with him to prove it out. I won't get fired this year if I draft Cam Ward and start Cam Ward. If I draft Cam Ward and sit Cam Ward and we go 2-15, he might still get fired. And that's just the reality. So I think it has a huge influence on those bad franchises.
Yeah. So a lot of decisions being made out of job security fear.
When are they not?
I mean, if you're doing it right, all of them.
I hear you, but welcome to the real world. It's nearly always driven by that.
I'll tell you right now, the real world is out here in the gulch, buddy. When you're out here in the trees, you make your own decisions and everything is based on what you do and nobody else. Like, then you actually can make decisions like that because you don't have to worry about your boss coming down on your head and telling you did a bad job by making the right decision.
We've got Dogzilla Monster in the chat with a $2 super chat as we're wrapping up here. Hey, Clinton, will we work on our punt game?
Well, I'm going to work on punting something, Dogzilla, and it might be that I love the super chat. We love it. $2. Thank you so much. We got Michael Dixon. We have no worries, Dogzilla. So, I think they're always working on it. He's one of the best in the game. Although I was critical of him last year. I didn't think he was as good as his first couple of years. But we have a Pro Bowl style punter, which now that Seattle is kind of an ambassador to Australia for our folks that might be watching from down under, that would be pretty cool. 2026, guys, maybe a road trip out to Sydney or wherever the game's going to go, and we'll hang out with Michael Dixon and watch him punt some footballs. Maybe only like once. That'd be cool.
Hopefully he doesn't play at all.
Yeah.
Big good night to Amy Holmes too. Thanks for coming in. We appreciate you. You're one of the best. So.
Oh, Amy's the best. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I really want to thank Ryan911, our live executive producer. Dogzilla Monster came in with multiple super chats tonight. Mm-hmm. Marvin Little Deer becoming a new member. Really appreciate all the interaction from everybody. Appreciate the support. And if you're catching this after the fact, let Adam know why he's so wrong in the comments. He loves that. He loves arguing his points.
Yeah. It's a great time. No, that's for sure. But look, hey, you can argue it in the comments and then we can come back big faced next year on the screen and we can check the results like we did this year and year before that, and year before that, and year before that, when you get the list and it's more right than any of the NFL GMs. So congratulations. You got a peek into the future of success. You have a leg up on everybody. And if you want to disagree in the comments, feel free to be wrong. It's up to you. It's a free country.
And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.